Let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this. We've had a million nights just like this. So let's get down,
All right, welcome to this week's episode of the Permeates podcast. We're doing things a little different this semester. In the past, we've done kind of a three-leg podcast where we have a discussion with co-hosts, and then we have a guest, and then we have a game. But we're changing things up a little bit. We're going to start doing things maybe a little bit more like one piece at a time. So this is going to be a segment. We had a great interview yesterday with Normal West grad Corey Walker. That's also going to be another segment. Hopefully we're going to be interviewing the girls basketball team. We're going to kind of do it segmented. Today we have with us two new co-hosts to the Permeates podcast. Why don't we have you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just go to both of you. So we'll start with you, Mazin.
Hi, I'm Mazin Syed, sophomore. Pretty cool.
I agree.
Super cool.
Yeah.
I guess something interesting about me is that I make films outside of school, which is pretty cool. Script writing, editing, lighting especially, that's a big thing. And I'm part of my school's jazz voice group, which is another cool thing. But that's just me.
I like it.
Go ahead, Chris.
What's up? My name is Chris. In terms of in-school stuff, I don't really do much. I'm on the bowling team, which I'm sure 90% of the people listening to this right now did not know that was a thing. But we have a tournament tomorrow,
Good
so
luck.
I'm going to be gone all day. Thank you.
Good luck. Where are you at?
Springfield. I got to be there by like 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Man.
So I couldn't go to school if I wanted to.
So is it like regionals?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many games do you think you'll play then?
I think we play 6. And my arm starts to give out around 3, so I
Oh,
don't know.
Yeah, you're going to be
Perfect.
worn out.
I'm gonna be
Well,
very
why
worn
don't
out.
you go, are you a righty bowler?
Yeah, I'm right-handed. I do 2 hands.
Oh, okay.
Put some
Well, that-
English on that ball.
And your arm still gets tired.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
I try to hyperextend my arms sometimes, so that's probably why I'm probably gonna like lose my arms
Got it.
this weekend.
Well, that sounds like fun. What's your high game
My
of
high
all
game
time?
is 248.
Two-handed?
Yes.
That's impressive.
I like it.
I mean, I don't know if you guys know anything about bowling, but that's pretty darn good. So, good. Anything else?
I mean, outside of school, I also don't really do anything. I do a lot of like writing and I just film videos for like Instagram, sometimes YouTube and stuff. So I spend a lot of time on like computers and stuff, just getting stuff done when I can.
Excellent.
Cool.
Mr. Piepenbrink is with us, I think, for the first time this year, correct?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome
At
back.
least of 2025, yeah.
Welcome back into the studio.
Yes.
So this week's discussion is going to be a little different. We're going to talk about just music in general and kind of the importance it has in our everyday lives and in our lives in general. So I think Mazin, we're going to start with you again. Just keep picking on you. You're the youngster, although you're a sophomore too, right?
Yeah.
So a couple youngsters. Tell us a little bit about maybe what type of music you typically listen to.
I listen to a lot of electronic, usually. One of my favorite artists is actually called 2003 Toyota Corolla, which is a weird name.
I'm surprised they can use that as
Yeah.
a name.
They've made such great songs like 2008 Toyota Corolla, 2010 Toyota Corolla, and 2025 Toyota Corolla. So,
Might
But,
have to
uh,
have you play me some of these. I'm curious to what they sound like.
no, I got you. And then I also like Sabrina Carpenter. That's another one. And Chuck Berry, too.
Ooh,
So
well, I mean,
I
that's a
listen to-
little
yeah.
different.
That's one I recognize.
Yeah.
So a lot of everything, I guess you could say.
That's, I mean, when you threw Chuck Berry out there, that was definitely threw me for a loop there. Chris, how about you?
It's a lot of, my dad had me grow up, since he's from New York and I'm from New Jersey, he had us grow up on a lot of like East Coast hip hop. So I was all over like Nas and Biggie growing up. He also had me, since he was close with some of the members of the band Korn. He had me grow up on a lot of like new metal as well, and I'm wearing a Slipknot shirt today.
Yeah, I noticed that. It's appropriate.
Yeah, that works.
Those are my two like main genres, but I've tried to kind of go out a little bit. Like my friends have tried to get me to listen to newer rap because I haven't listened to anything made after like 1995. So I just listened to a bunch of Kanye West, and that was interesting. They're trying to get me on Tyler the Creator, but I don't
Anytime
know
you say interesting, that lends itself to like, okay, what does that mean?
Not a fan.
Is that a positive interesting, a negative interesting?
I mean, I felt that like, because I knew that he had such a big impact on like hip hop as a whole, but I had never really listened to much of him. A lot of his newer stuff was bad. Like Vultures 1 and 2 were awful. But like a lot of his older stuff, it was really interesting to see how he grew as an artist and how he got worse. But in the beginning, he was really good.
Right. Yep. Dr. Piepenbrink.
I'm a rock and roll kind of guy, so kind of any genre of rock. I appreciate anything that has guitar, so there might be some country songs that Mr. Franz has shown me that have been stuck in my head. I'm like, all right,
Sorry about that.
That was
That's
pretty
my
good
bad.
too. Okay.
When you say guitar, are you more inclined to enjoy acoustical guitar or electric guitar?
It depends on the mood of the day. So I like to play acoustic more than electric, but if I'm going for a run or I don't know, I'm in a more energized mood, I want the electric and I want the wailing guitar solos and stuff. So
yeah.
What about you?
As I've gotten older, I probably listen to more country than anything. That's probably been the last maybe 5 to 10 years. That's one of the things I really like about music is it kind of defines the time in your lives. Like you guys are still really young, but when I was your age, I was listening to 80s rock. I mean, and there was some great 80s rock music, and there was also some absolutely horrible 80s. 80s was a very interesting, like, I feel like 70s was very similar. 80s there was a lot of exploration. There was a lot more use of like synthesizers and electronic keyboards and stuff like that. And the music was absolutely all over the place. And I appreciate most of it. There's been times I took a classical music class in college and really enjoyed it. At one point I was listening to Christian music. Probably the only genre of music that I just have never really appreciated, to be honest, is like hardcore rap. Love R&B, love some of the like not hardcore rap, but like Eminem. Like when I was first started teaching was one of my favorite artists and has some of my all-time favorite songs. And again, music is cool. Music is awesome because of that. So
I got a question for everyone.
yes.
I want to know the first. So for you, it's probably a cassette or an 8-track.
The first form of music.
First form of music, and what was it?
Yeah. The first that I can remember is 8-tracks, which I know you guys know what 8-tracks are, but probably have never listened to one. We had a Suburban was our method of transportation when we went on vacations. And there was like one 8-track that we would actually all agree that we could listen to. The others were my dad's stuff, and we're like, no, we do not want to listen to that. And that was Barry Manilow.
Barry Manilow? And
So,
was that your purchase?
No, I
what
think
was
that
the
was
first
like
one
my.
you bought?
I don't think I ever bought an 8-track. I think the first thing I probably ever bought was a cassette, or actually, I disagree. Probably records.
You had a record.
We had a record player. The 45s and then the 33s. First one I probably ever purchased was probably, to be honest, probably Michael Jackson Thriller.
Ooh. That sounds cooler than
That
my
would
first
be
purchase. So.
my guess, which would be what?
The Backstreet Boys.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
still have that to this day, probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably
I have a
that
record
CD
player
somewhere.
in my house that I bought, and I took some of the old records from my house, and I still listen to them at times,
cool.
which is fun. So,
All right, what about you two? First music you ever bought?
Well, my grandfather has a massive collection of CDs. I think he had 400 something at some point, and I used to stay over at his house a lot, and that's what I listened to. I guess my first exposure to music, and that was a lot of the Beatles, Bob Dylan, the 60s, 70s
Got a good taste in
artists.
music.
Yeah. And then later, my mom introduced me, and she actually bought records. She collected records, and we have a record player. And she listened to a lot of more 90s stuff, like Foo Fighters, Nirvana, those kinds of artists. And I guess now, as I've gotten older, I experiment a lot more with music because there's only, like, with all due respect, there's only so far you can push a guitar, right? Like, I feel like once you get into electronic and more experimental things like you can find online, there's a lot more you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just my opinion.
But just because you can do it doesn't mean everyone enjoys listening to that. Everyone has their own set of ears and things that they enjoy hearing, which is one of the greatest parts about music. Mm-hmm. Like I enjoy just listening to piano and guitar, two of the most basic instruments there are. And I like that. I'm fine with that because I enjoy the lyrics, and I feel like I can hear the lyrics more. And I think that's one of the reasons why I never really got into rap much is my ears just couldn't understand.
Couldn't keep up.
And couldn't keep up with what they're saying, and I'm too old. So
Maybe. Chris, first thing you ever got?
My dad was always very traditional, so he always had a bunch of CDs. Like, this dude had a BlackBerry until I think like 2009. He just did not want to get an iPhone for some reason. But I have a lot of CDs now because the car that I am going to be given once I get my license is a 2011 Honda Accord.
Okay, got it.
With a CD player in it.
Does it have like a 5-disc changer or just one? Because I remember that was popular for a while in cars, and it's like, I got a 5-disc CD changer.
I had a 6, and it was in the trunk, so you had to load it before you got in the car.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Isn't that weird?
But that's hours of music
It's true.
that you could listen to. So that's cool. Keep going, Chris.
I think it's 5 because my dad always had a bunch of he had Billy Joel, Bruce Springsteen, Survivor loaded into the car, and
Eye of the Tiger.
that's the only song he had on there. From that. And a lot of the CDs that I was given was more targeted to what I listened to. So I have Breaking Benjamin, Seether, Chevelle, Sick Puppies, a bunch of stuff like that I'm gonna be listening to.
And those are songs or artists? Because I don't know.
Those were all artists.
Those are artists.
Okay, got it. Sorry.
I also got a Creed one, so if I'm ever sad one day, I'm just gonna go drive in the rain and listen to
some Creed.
Yeah.
My favorite Creed songs are the ones that are like the mimic songs or whatever, where people sing something in the Creed style, and it's just hilarious. So that's another thing that it just comes to mind when I talk about music is like remakes. Like there's been some great remakes of artists that have taken a song that was great and just done their own little spin on it. Brady and I have kind of put a couple back and forth. I can't necessarily remember. I feel like Five Finger Death Punch or whatever that is redoing Sound of Silence. Is that right?
That was Disturbed.
Disturbed.
That did that one.
Got it. And that's like,
that was a good
I would
one,
listen
though.
to that song over and over again.
Yep. I'm pulling one up. My friend sent me one today. I can't remember this guy's name, so I'm going to pull him up.
Yeah.
But
So what do you guys think about remakes of songs?
I think if it's done well, then it's really good, but you can really mess up a
Definitely.
remake, dude.
Definitely. Great.
Because I feel like if an original is iconic enough, then you really have to work hard to do that remake, right?
Yeah, agreed.
So
Can't just willy-nilly it.
I'm not a big fan of most remakes. I'm fine with remakes if it stays in the same genre. And I've seen some good songs like System of a Down and Wu-Tang Clan came together and they recovered a Wu-Tang Clan song in the style of metal, and it sounded good. But then I saw, I can't remember the name of the rapper, but he did a cover of Chop Suey by System of a Down, and it was like one of the worst things I've ever listened to.
Got it.
Because you can like change up the genre of a cover and make it good. He didn't do that for some reason, and he didn't even
didn't
change
work.
the beat. No, it did not work at all.
That's
So the one
annoying.
I found the one that I was thinking of. This guy online on YouTube. His name is Alex Melton, and he does he'll take a song like a Panic at the Disco song and turn it into a country song.
Oh god.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
They're so good, and some of them are hilarious. I'll sometimes play them in class, and kids will be like,
Wait a second, I
looking
know
around
that
and be
song.
like, "Wait a minute, what is that?" It's pretty good. So he's got skills.
Today's podcast sponsor is Select Screen Prints. Select Screen Prints has been in partnership with Normal West for over 25 years, providing quality Wildcat apparel at an affordable price. Choose Select Screen Prints for all of your custom t-shirt, sweatshirt, and apparel needs. They now offer digital printing, which allows for fast turnaround and excellent quality at prices that are less expensive than most online apparel companies. Select Screen Prints is the choice in Bloomington Normal area and beyond. Check them out for your next apparel order. All right, so another thing I was thinking about that we could talk about was concerts. So that really is a whole different realm of music, and I think I haven't been to a ton of concerts, especially as of late. But are there anyone that you've either been to see in concert or would really want to see in concert?
I'm gonna actually let Chris take this one because I think you have more interesting stories than I do. Hopefully,
Probably. Because of my dad's connections with Korn, I was near them at a young age. My first concert ever was a Korn concert when I lived in Florida at age like 6. And
Wow.
like my dad had known them for so long at that point that when he went to get food, he left me and my brother with Jonathan Davis to watch over us while he went to get food. So
That's really cool.
I've been to I think 4 Korn concerts to date, and they always have really good features. The most recent one I went to was in, I believe, Omaha, Nebraska. They had Spirit Box and Gojira. And Spirit Box I really liked. I'd never heard of them before, but when I saw Gojira's performance at the Olympics, I had very high expectations.
Right.
And they were still blown out of the water. And the fire was very hot from where I was sitting. I don't know. I don't know how they were dealing with that on stage, because the fire, it was like the equivalent of the hibachi fire. If you're out like Kobe,
Right in your face.
just, it felt like it was right there, but I'm like
Whoa.
hundreds of feet away from the pyrotechnics.
That's pretty sweet.
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And one of the cool things about that is hopefully they continue to tour. And so like you could, be in college or just after college and be like, hey, let's go see a Korn concert. I know a guy.
I know. Got to
So-
hook up.
How about you, Doctor?
The last concert I went to was, I think, Greta Van Fleet. They're a newer rock group that sounds a lot like Led Zeppelin.
Okay.
And me and my wife went to see them. I think they were in Peoria. They were incredible. I mean, they're one of the bands that, like, you hear them on the radio and you're like, whoa, they're good. And then we saw them live and they're like, they're even better live.
Yeah,
like,
that's
they sound
cool.
like that for real. That
Which
guy,
doesn't always happen.
Oh, man.
Certainly.
Yeah, super impressive. Just so 3 of them are brothers, and so that's kind of cool that it's like the whole family's that talented. And then I think one of their buddies is the drummer, maybe. But that was the last one we went to. Is also had the pyrotechnics going off, which was fun and is a good time.
Last concert I went with Mr. Burgess, Leah,
Leah. I was gonna
Marlene,
say
and Fritz
Leah.
Hager. Before that, I think it was probably Zach Brown Band, probably, who, speaking of like just being really good in
Yep.
concert, they
We've
are
gotten to see him, too.
musicians.
He's
So it
great.
just enjoyed just listening to their instrumental solos just as much as enjoying them sing their songs. So I saw Zach Brown, I think maybe 4 times. Once like right when Chicken Fried had come out, and so it was down in Springfield. And once they played that song, like a lot of people left. I'm like, what are you doing?
there's still so many other good ones.
Exactly. So I do love listening to live music. I think it adds a whole different element. And now, especially now with like auto-tune, I'm sure that helps concerts in terms of the quality that you're listening to. Probably 20 years ago was probably a lot more raw and maybe not as like acoustically, I don't know, crisp.
I know. That's what I like.
Maybe
though.
you
I
like that.
I like the less mess with sound of Like, do they actually have the pipes to hit these notes and that kind of stuff is what I like to hear.
Yep. So, any other musical avenues that you want to explore?
Do any of you play any instruments?
Chris,
I know Chris does.
Chris drums, which is really
I do a little
cool.
bit of everything.
He does a little bit of everything, guys. And then I play guitar a lot, which acoustic, which is cool. A lot of Paul McCartney, a lot of just older, like 90s, 80s, 70s songs. But
And you're also in chamber choir, so you can probably sing as well.
hopefully
So we
I
should have
can.
done that. That should have been like, you get the
Little
drums,
quick
you do
performance.
it, and Brady can do it, and I can just sit and listen.
Yeah,
How about you, Mr. Burgess? Sit and listen? Or you don't want to play? Yeah, that'd be fun.
That would be fun.
Do a little podcast
Jam
concert,
sesh.
a little jam sesh.
Yep.
Get Leah Marlene back in here,
Heck yeah.
and her dad.
Yep. Corn.
And we definitely have some.
We could get Corn in here.
Come in.
Why not?
You have connections.
Is there any way we can make that happen?
I'll see what I can do.
I'm sure they're going to be in concert here in the Bloomington Normal area really soon. So if that happens,
be all over it.
before you graduate, you have 2 more years.
We got time.
Let's see if we can make that
It's
happen.
only been 30 years. They got 30 more left.
All right. Well, thank you for being part of this very unique podcast episode. It was enjoyable to hear a couple youngsters' thoughts on music, and it's great to know that you're listening to some of the stuff that I grew up with. You guys, talking about the Beatles and Bob Dylan, who's one of my all-time favorites,
Great
and
songwriter.
I actually like his son Jacob Dylan. I think he's really good. He was lead singer for the Wallflowers in the '90s. I really like their music too. So. It's been fun, enjoyable.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.